And welcome back to my channel. Unless you're new here, and then it's just welcome. My name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. And tonight we are I picked out some, I guess, October. I don't really do these seasonal things. I mean, I am a horror movie collector. I'm a horror movie collector, amongst other things, but it's Halloween all year for me. The month of October, and everybody, spooky month, then do this event and that event. That's cool. That's all right. I'm not watching most of them because you're talking about the same shit I see talked about all year. But I pretty much, um, it's horror movies all year round for me. I don't really have any specific for the season. But I've tried to pick out a few that I had that at least came close to that I hadn't done. So I'm like, well, I'll do some of them. And later on this month, I am going to do, finally, the new Halloween trilogy, 2018. I'm going to do that trilogy. I'm going to sit down and watch all three of them back to back and have a really good time. And do those videos. And tonight we are going to tackle a little independent slasher called Hallows Eve. Now, Hallows Eve is a little low-budget slasher, which I love low-budget slashers. It was directed by McGarry. It was written by Raymond Mamrak. It stars Danielle Harris, Raymond Mamrak, and Courtney Baxter, amongst others. And like I said, it's a little independent slasher movie. Yes, Hallows Eve. Now, Hallows Eve is from 2013. It opens with we see a young girl in a cornfield where she is then pursued and bullied by 6 teenagers who jump out and tease her and cover her with pumpkin mush and stuff like that. And she ends up running from them. And this is actually one of them, Matthew. This is actually his little sister, right? So he's like, okay, joke's over, leave her alone, stuff like that. And she gets lost and is like crying out for him. He goes and tries to find her, tries to help, but she ends up running out of the cornfield line, head on into a tractor. And it disfigures one side of her face. It like rips all of this off. So we spring forward to where she is now, I don't know, 18, 17, 18 now. So she's been disfigured all of this time. And her family owns what's it called? The Bates Hotel Haunted Hayrides? Or the Bates Motel Haunted Hayrides? I can't remember which one. I wrote motel, but I don't know if it was Bates Motel Haunted Hayrides or hotel. I don't know which one. Can't remember. But they have a seasonal event. It's sort of like an amusement park, which is actually a pretty cool idea. It's like an amusement park for nothing but horror. And they have all of these different, it's a farm, but they have all of these different attractions, haunted houses, and the haunted maze, and the slaughterhouse, and all of that kind of stuff. So it's sort of like a little amusement park on this farm. And we are introduced to Danielle Harris' character. She plays Nicole, her brother Matthew, and of course Eve is there. She is now, like I said, an 18-year-old. Or 18-ish, yeah. So we're introduced to, what's his name, Ryan? Ryan and his 2 dipshit friends, they're coming to be, even though they're the children of the people who caused this tragedy, even though they are still invited to the event. They get free tickets. So Ryan, he shows up with two of his dipshit friends, and I will say that the dialogue, I think the budget for this movie was $300,000. But the dialogue was hilarious because let me tell you, I put that the bitch fight scene between Sarah and Ryan is awesome. I laughed out loud at the shit that they said to each other, because he come out there. He's one of those little punk gangstery acting dudes, It's like, come on, mama, give me my stuff, and stuff like that. And let me tell you, the fight between them, which is a verbal slam, the things he says to her is hilarious. But the things she says, she's just blowing it off. And the stuff she says back to him made me bust the gut. I mean, I had to rewind it, and I'm like, that was some funny shit right there. So they get in, they end up going and peeping on Eve. Now, all of them knew what happened to her, so why anybody wanted to see that, I don't know, but they went and peeped on her while she was getting dressed. Unbeknownst to them, though, she has like a prosthetic. There's a prosthetic that she wears that hides the damage. And unfortunately for her and for them, it had become messed up and it had fallen off of her. So they had never really seen her as an adult in that condition. So it scares the hell out of these three boys, when they see it and they take off and she freaks out and they can't find who did it, who the three were that did it, until Matthew finds their keys, or one of his keys, Ryan's keys. So now that they know who did it, they're like, oh yeah, we'll take care of them later. They comfort her. We're introduced to this mishmash of our teenage victims. There's Ashley, there's Kate, there's Lisa, there's Joe, you've got Ryan, his connection, Weed connection, which is Marty, and a weird name, Keone. Keone is his name. So we're introduced to them, and Eve is upset, of course, because she has to wear a bandage for the event because, her applique, her prosthetic is gone, was messed up. She has to wait till Monday for the doctor to give her a new one. So we see all kind of the typical hijinks, They're smoking weed, they're sneaking off, this group has, this one has a fight with this one, and this one don't like this one. And you have all of the typical interactions that you would expect. Some of them are funny. Like I said, the dialogue is, the writer, he wrote some very funny dialogue. So the quips between them, as far as the acting goes, the acting was, for the most part, all right. There was a little bit of flub, but not really enough to make you like knock points off the movie or anything. It was just like, oh yeah, that one's not a really good actor, but I mean, they are making it through. It's being all right. There's way too much T and not enough A, if you know what I'm saying. There's boobs everywhere, but you don't get to see no butt, so I guess the writer was definitely a heterosexual and a misogynistic pig like Rob Zombie as well, so we'll just let that go though. Don't get me to go down there, because I will go down there. So there's a pretty good bit of character building before we start seeing the killings. I believe, I'm almost sure, that it was Ashley is the first one that's killed, and she gets like disemboweled, and she's like walking around with her guts hanging out. And you have to remember, this is a horror festival, so it's like Marty and Keone, they come in, and she's like laying on the ground with her intestines hanging out, and they're like, oh man, that's really good acting, like that's good. and it's like, ooh, intestines, yeah. And they actually watch the killer come out, grab her, and pull her back around the corner like Leatherface. And they're just like watching it going, wow, that was good. Which is, I guess you could run into that situation if you're at a horror festival, right? I mean, she is literally disemboweled. Her guts are literally hanging out all over the place. And you just think it's part of the show. I could see that happening. So it's not like it's beyond the realm of possibility. Kate is a bitch. They're all bitches, to tell you the truth. All of them. Joe's a bitch. His ultra macho shit is just... So the kills. Kate gets skewered on a pipe. Like a drainage pipe sticking out from the side of a building. The killer, skewers her on that. That was nice. I'm trying to find names. Joe and Roy, they fight. There's a fight scene. That's what I was telling you about, that ultra machismo shit. There's some of that. Oh, I left it blank. Here's a complaint. And it's not just independent or low budget. To all directors and writers out there, most people do not have the International Movie Database page opened up when they're watching a movie, especially at the theater, right? They don't have it called up on their phone. Second of all, you need to say their names, right? I have seen movies where, the character, you go and look on International Movie Database going, okay, the thumbnail, I don't see the bitch. And then when you do find it, this movie was 8 years ago, so the bitch has a totally different look now. She's got different hair, all of that. Sometimes you can't, I remember what she looks like in the movie, but I can't find which thumbnail is hers. Please say their names in the dialogue, Don't just say, they're friends, right? Friends use each other's names. So, this one girl, the black-headed girl, I'm sure I finally wrote it down somewhere, but she gets, her head beaten in, on the side of the car. So she gets her head beaten in, smashed in, very bloody, very gory, very good special effects, practical effects. I think I saw one CGI in this movie, and it was some blood CGI. And it was very mediocre. But thankfully, you're not going to have to complain about that much, because that was the one and only time that I saw any CGI. Everything is practical, so for you practical lovers, this has got some really good practical. I know that, that girl gets her head beat in. It's Joe, the girl that Joe's messing with. That Roy's messing with. Her brother is Joe. She's messing with Roy. He don't want Roy touching his sister. But it's his sister. It's that one that gets her face smashed in on the side of the car. Roy and Danielle character Nicole, she don't know none of this shit's going on until this kill. And that is Roy gets an axe really good. So it's a nice collection of kills. If you know what I'm saying, they're not all the same. So, how Kate got skewered, the girl got beat to death on the side of the car, Ashley got disemboweled. Roy gets a big fire axe, right through the back of his head, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. And Nicole actually walked in and saw it, but then they knocked her out. the killer knocked her out, but didn't hurt her, didn't kill her, just knocked her out. So she wakes up in a pool of blood, knows that some shit's going down. Same thing had happened to Sarah, the one who had the bitch fight, the staff member who had the bitch fight with Ryan at the beginning. She goes to the storeroom where I guess some bodies were being temporarily stored by the killer. Right as she thought, what the fuck is that? Is that a body? She gets knocked out. But she wakes up fine. So Nicole wasn't killed and Sarah wasn't killed, but they like stumbled across something they shouldn't have, I guess is what happened. So the killer just like tapped them out. Now, I'll tell you, the whole time that this is going on, the law enforcement officer friend of theirs that is like doing security for this festival, his name is Tommy. And Tommy is the one that I thought was the killer this whole time. I had already figured it out. Like, I'm like, well, it's her. It's because he loves Eve despite her disfigurement. Oh, isn't that sweet? But he loves Eve despite her disfigurement. So I'm like, well, of course, that's the killer right there. So I had been thinking that this whole time. Lisa, what happened to Lisa? Lisa got drilled, like with a drill, a hand drill. So she got drilled through the head with that. Roy got the axe in the head. Joe was a good kill. It was also the one that had that little bit of CGI in it. But an ode to Leatherface, Joe got killed in the slaughterhouse by a chainsaw. And that was a really good scene, actually. Except when they threw some CGI blood. And I'm like, that was not necessary, really. You were doing fine with the other. If you can't afford good computer, if you can't afford the good CGI, it's okay. But I think they probably thought there's not enough blood spray. I mean, it is a chainsaw, for God's sakes. And I'm like, well, I mean, I understand your thought process, but sometimes less is more, if you know what I mean. However, the scene itself was very good. And once again, that dumbass Keone and Marty were like watching through the door as he gets chainsawed. And again, they're like, it's a wonderful scene. This is really a cool festival. And I'm like, yeah, well, did they ever get killed? You know what? I don't think they got killed. They probably left that motherfucking place thinking that it was just part of the show and didn't know till the next day when all of the, the announcement, 20 fucking people killed at the festival last night. They probably didn't even know till then because they were stoned on some really good ganga. You know what I mean? And so they probably didn't even know, but I don't remember them getting killed. I don't think they got killed. Let me check my notes. I don't see them getting killed. They don't get killed. Their names are nowhere in my kill list. Which actually shocks me now that I think about it. Because both of them deserved to be killed. They were so fucking stupid. But I digress. So, I think I've covered everyone. Okay, now all of a sudden we see another woman talking with Nicole in the concession store, souvenir store of their farm. And you find out that that's one of the girls, that caused Eve to run out there and get killed. I mean, get her face messed up, disfigured. And another one shows up as well. Because they had been called by their daughters. One was the mother of Lisa and Kate, who were sisters, and the other was the mother of one of the other girls, Ashley. It was Ashley's mom. Now, we had seen the killer taking the phones of the victims when he killed them. So I'm like, they called the moms to come, right? So she goes, she's pretty uncomfortable there, as you would be if you were at the place where you caused some girl to get disfigured. So we then see Ashley's mom show up, and she meets Kate's mom, and they go looking for their daughters. They end up going, I think it was in the slaughterhouse, where they actually meet up, at which point the killer runs out and kills Ashley's mom. Like, stabs her to death with a machete and shit. And the other one, she, like, takes off running. And she's, like, running through the cornfield. Which, is a familiar from the beginning of the movie. So she's running through the cornfield, much like Eve did when she was a little kid. And all of a sudden, a cop car pulls up and Tommy gets out. Wearing the staff uniform, just like the killer had been doing. And he had the hoodie. And I'm like, see? I'm good. I knew it was Tommy. It had to be Tommy. So she's like, please help me, help me. He goes over there and he pulls the hoodie down. You see it's Tommy, and I'm like, I'm good. And then all of a sudden, the whole fucking top of his head comes off with a machete and falls in that woman's lap. And I'm like, well, even I can be wrong sometimes. Because it wasn't Tommy who was doing it. I thought it was Tommy the whole time, and I'm like going, okay, well now who the fuck is it then? All right, you got me. What the fuck? So she gets up and runs, and she runs out there and realizes that she's pretty much at the exact place. She's like been chased and led to the, exact place where that little girl got disfigured. And there's this shrine, like, pumpkin heads and all of that. But along with all of the pumpkin heads is the head of both of her daughters and all of the other murder victims. And that's when you realize, okay, because we know why all this happened. But instead of going after only the people who did it, caused it, the killer has also went after the children of the people who caused it. Because that's what Lisa and Kate were not the teenagers that made that girl, run out in front of that tractor. It was her mother. So that's like holding a grudge, right? For what? So it's not very nice that you killed their kids because yours got disfigured. So you're like, well, who is it? And that's when we see Eve come walking up, and I'm like, is it her? I mean, that would make sense, but again, it seems a little overkill to go after the children of the people that caused your ass to run out in front of a tractor. But then we see the real killer, and it's Matthew. It's her brother. The one who tried to help her in the field before she ran out in front of that tractor. So I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Well, I mean, that makes sense. And you did twist me up because I didn't suspect him. I didn't suspect him as far as the way he carried himself in his scenes in the movie. I suspected Tommy, which is obviously what they wanted you to do. So, he goes in for the final kill, and of course Nicole has run up too and seen all this, and she's like, what the absolute fuck? And one of their other staff members, though, pulls out a shotgun and shoots, blows Tommy away. And so he drops dead before he does manage to get one, slice on that woman. What's her name? Lori? I think it's Lori. But, yeah, he does manage to get one slice on her, but it doesn't kill her or anything. And he's laying there dead. Now, the next thing we see, and of course Nicole jumps on her brother and is like, oh God, Bella, I can't believe all this shit. So you then see that woman in the hospital, and a nurse is giving her some pain meds, and you'll be okay, and you just need to rest and stuff like that. She has a really good nightmare scene where she thinks that someone's killed her. She wakes up from that, though, and she's laying there all breathing heavy. And then you see a person wearing the staff uniform come from around the curtain and reach over there and cut her from ear to ear and cut her throat. And then the movie ends right there. So you're like, okay. Well, it wasn't Tommy. It turned out to be Matthew. But was it Matthew alone? Or has now his death caused Nicole or Eve or someone else to finish off that Laura woman? Is it a one-time thing, or are they going to go psycho too? Who knows? So I gave it a 6.8 out of 10. It is low budget, but that's fine with me, as long as the acting isn't too bad. The practical effects are very good. It doesn't have any more of a hated score than every other horror movie on fucking International Movie Database, which I don't pay attention to their scores. But so I gave it a 7 on International Movie Database. My actual score is 6.8. That's pretty happy. I'm pretty happy with that score. Danielle Harris was great. Most of the acting was okay. A couple little flubs here and there that you would expect. The nudity was unbalanced, which knocked a little bit off. The runtime, I think it's only like an hour and 20 minutes, which is a no-no. So you got a point knocked off for that. All movies will, no matter how good I like them. If you're too fucking lazy to make a 90-minute movie without credits, then you're not going to make as much praise, get a higher score, or get enough money. I think I got this brand new sealed on Hamilton Books for $5. That's what I think I got this for. So it's okay if you want to make a hour and 20-minute movie, and I'll pay you $5 for it, but I'm not going to pay you 12 if you're too lazy to make an hour and a half. Production costs. I know all the excuses. Go get a job at McDonald's and finish up the filming. Okay? So, I can be a bitch, but I have a right to. It's my channel, it's my collection, and I say what the fuck I want. You got some money from me, and you got a very nice review. I like the movie. I like having it as my slasher collection, and I would recommend it for slasher fans who like slasher cheese to add it to their collection. It's very worth it. And I will see you in the next one. Love you, miss you, bye. Always remember and never forget you are a very special person, even if you haven't had half of your face shaved off by a tractor in a cornfield, whose brother decides to then take revenge for you. Love you, miss you, bye. See you in the next one. Bye-bye. You can click stop now.